So, good afternoon everyone. I am Juliana Ruiz Carriaza and I am here to report about implicature, which is a part of the topic, which is a part of the study of semantics and pragmatics. So before I start my discussion, let me ask you a question. So, have you tried being on a conversation in which you speak something that can be interpreted in different ways? So obviously you experience it. So let me tell you, or let me give you a certain scenario that shows how conversational implicature will show. So first, no, a captain and his mate has a long-term quarrel, and then they fought about the rum because the mate drinks more than the captain. The captain writes in the logbook, "Today, 11th October, the mate is drunk." And the mate reads it and gets mad and gets back at him by writing, "Today, 14th October, the captain is not drunk," which is basically an insult because it means the opposite, since namely that the captain is frequently or habitually drunk. By saying the opposite, it shows how sentence meaning, the semantic meaning or content of the sentence differ from the utterance meaning. Utterance meaning is what the speaker intends to convey by making an utterance. So utterance meaning includes the semantic content and pragmatic content created by the use of the sentence in a specific context. So it depends on how you use it in the sentence, or how you use, or how you incorporate it in a certain scenario, or how you use it in a sentence or in a certain scenario. Oh my god. So let's proceed to the next slide. So this scenario shows how context dependent meaning arises. So what do you mean by context dependent? So context dependent, it is a statement of meaning that relies upon the situation, background, or environment for proper interpretation. So bale, the way how you interpret a reply, or how you interpret a statement depends on you how your surrounding influence you. So it is how context dependent means. So our discussion in this chapter will focus on the groundbreaking work of on this topic by the philosopher H. Paul Grice. So let me introduce to you H. Paul Grice. So H. Paul Grice referred to the kind of inference, yung example na binigay ko, as a conversational implicature. So, yun ang conversational implicature example. What is conversational implicature? Grice suggested that such inferences arises when there is a real or apparent violation of our shared default expectation about how conversation works. So bali, nag-arise ni ang inferences because of our shared default expectation of how conversation works. So bali, parang it is once you violate a certain expectation which resulted to the inferences that arise. So what do you mean by conversational implicature? It is a gap between what we say and what we mean. A speaker says one thing and thereby conveys something else. So Yun na nga, katulad ng example ko kanina about the captain, that he actually meant, or he actually, his statement is actually an insult to the captain. So that's how conversational implicature works. So let me give you another example about how conversational implicature works. So in this example, Arthur says that, "Can you tell me where the post office is?" So Bill replied that, "I am a stranger here myself." So Bill's statement is clearly intended to mean, "No, I cannot," as a reply to Arthur's request for directions. But the sentence meaning or semantic content of Bill's statement does not contain or entail the intended meaning. The statement conveys the intended meaning only in response to that specific question. The different meaning could be willingness to engage in a conversation or sympathy for Arthur's situation. So Bill's reply can be interpreted as like his willingness to talk to Arthur, or either he is also sympathizing the situation of Arthur. So you can you can analyze it by looking at the example. So the next example is Arthur, "I've just moved to this town, and so far I'm finding it pretty tedious. I haven't met a single person who is willing to talk about anything except next week local election." So Bill's reply is, "I'm a stranger here myself." These are two distinct utterances which may have different utterance meaning, but since the sentence meaning is identical, the difference in utterance meaning must be due to pragmatic inferences induced by the different context. So maybe Bill is actually a stranger, so he can't really tell the direction, or he can't really talk to Arthur because he also is a stranger. So wait a minute. So let's proceed to the characteristic of an conversational implicature. So first characteristic of conversational implicature is that the implicature is different from the literal sentence meaning. So in Grice's terms, what is implicated is different from what is said. So what does that mean? It basically means that in a conversation, sometimes we spoke words that mean something different inside our mind. So, di ba, when we spoke something, somehow we actually use words that word that actually that has double meaning. So basta it is the words that we use that means something different inside our mind. So next is, nevertheless, the speaker intends for the hearer to understand both the sentence meaning and the implicature, and for the hearer to be aware that the speaker intends this. So what does that mean? So the speaker wants the hearer to carefully understand what he or she is trying to say, or trying to imply by saying those. So speaker wants the hearer to really carefully understand both the implicature and the sentence meaning. So third is that conversational implicature are context dependent. So what do you mean by context dependent? I've already tackled it, and it is a statement of meaning that relies upon a situation, background, or environment for proper interpretation. So, yun nga, the way you interpret a certain scenario or certain statement, it depends on your surroundings and your background. So, fourth is that It is often unmistakable, but they are not inevitable, which means unavoidable. So in Grice terms, conversational implicatures are divisible, meaning they can be cancelled or blocked when additional information is provided. So conversational implicatures are not something strange and exotic. They turn out to be extremely common in everyday language use. So obviously, it really exists in our daily communication with one another. So let's proceed with the Grice maxims of conversation. So Grice maxims of conversation, it is the connection between what is said and what is implicated. So it is between both the statement and what the speaker is trying to imply. So it is taking context into account, cannot be arbitrary, it must be ruled governed to significant degree. Otherwise, the speaker could not expect the hearer to reliably understand the intended meaning. So yes, let's proceed. So Grice lecture series at Harvard University in 1967, he laid out analysis of implicatures, triggered an explosion of interest and research about this topic. It is sometimes cited as the birth date of pragmatics as a separate field of study. So in Harvard University in 1967, it is where Grice analysis of implicature started to explode, and it is considered as the birth date of pragmatics. So what do you mean by Grice maxims of conversation? So Grice's fundamental insight was that conversation is a cooperative activity, which means both the speaker and the hearer is trying to it is the relationship between the speaker and the hearer. So kailangan both talaga yan siya. So in order to carry an intelligible conversation, each party must assume that what the other person is trying to each party must assume that is trying to participate in meaningful way. So both should understand that each party must really engage in and try to understand that each other is trying to communicate in a meaningful way. So katulad ng example ko doon sa introduction, that they are still communicating even though they are quarreling. So Grice proposed that there are certain default assumptions about how conversation works, stated in the form of general cooperative principle and several specific sub-principle, which he labeled as maxims. So the comparative principle. So let's start with the comparative principle. So make your own conversation contribution such as required at the stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose of direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged, which means you should create your own contribution in the conversation. So it is a kind of background assumption. What is necessary in order to make rational conversation possible is not for the speaker to follow the principle slavishly, but for the speaker and hearer to share a common awareness that it exists. So basically, hindi naman hiningi na we should strictly follow the principle, but what is what Grace trying to say is that we should both have common awareness about how about this topic, or about the we should be both aware that implicatures or implicatures that is given. So next is the maxims of conversation. So quality first is the quality. First maxims of conversation that we must put in our minds is that quality. So quality, it is you need to try to make your contribution one that is true, which means you should provide a true and you should provide a truthful statement. So do not say what you believe to be false. So if you believe that it is false, then just don't say it. So do not say that for which you lack adequate evidence. So if you don't have evidence, then don't say it. So quantity. So make your contribution as informative as is required for the current purposes of the exchange. Dapat when you give a statement, you need to be informative, because conflict will occur once you failed to be informative. So I will give an example later in the discussion. So second is, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. So even though you need to be informative, hindi din you shouldn't really go over the board or over what is needed. So just be in the middle, right? So relation or relevance. So basically you need to be relevant. So manner. First, you need to avoid obscurity of expression. So avoid ambiguity. So be brief, avoid necessary prolixity, and be orderly. So it is understandable naman. So Grice's model is intended to explain the pragmatic part of the meaning. The answer to Arthur's literal yes or no question is conveyed by the pragmatic inference, while the semantic sentence meaning explains the reason for this answer. So this explanation is the explanation of Arthur's and Bill's conversation. So Grice describes several specific patterns which give rise to conversational implicatures. So in cases in which there is an apparent violation but no maxim is actually violated, I am a stranger here myself was an apparent violation of the maxim of relevance. Because in the conversation, as you can see, it is really not relevant to what is asked by Arthur. So that fails to follow the maxim of relevance, but the implicature triggered actually was relevant. So there was no violation. So let me talk about Arthur and Bill pa ha. Arthur might interpret it as Bill is a stranger and has nothing to do with the post office. Bill seems to be violated the maxim of relevance. Kayo nga. But he is still trying to participate in a rational conversation. So, dito pala ito na explanation. So, but the implication it triggered actually was relevant. So, there was no real violation. It means because he is still trying to participate in a rational conversation. So, he must be observing the conversational maxim, or at least conversational participle. Since strangers in town typically don't know more about the city, so it is unlikely that he can provide the information that the hearer is asking. So if this means he cannot, then there is no violation. So ibig sabihin kay uh, since since Bill is somehow is like trying to still communicate with Arthur, it doesn't, ulitin ako ha, so in cases in which there is an apparent violation but no maxim is actually violated, I am a stranger here myself is a violation of the maxim of relevance. But Bill is actually still trying to communicate with Arthur, so there was no violation because he is still trying to communicate, and maybe he is really a stranger, so he can't really tell Arthur what he is actually he needed. So sentence meaning does not only triggers implicatures, but itself is a part of the meaning which is being communicated. Here are some examples that shows the situation. So, alright, I'm right. Oh my god. So, first example, I am a petrol. Ay, mali. Sorry. I am out of petrol. And B replies with that there is a garage service station. So, ibig sabihin, B's reply to A is means that you can buy petrol there in a garage. So, the second is Smith doesn't seem to have a girlfriend these days. New York. So, these days. So, he has been paying a lot of visits to New York lately, which can be interpreted as maybe he has a girlfriend in New York. That's why he keep coming to New York lately. So, violation of the maxim of quantity. So, where does he live? So, B's answer, somewhere in the South France. So, B's reply is a violation of the maxim of quantity because it is not appropriate and informative in the context by saying something for which he lacks adequate evidence. So, di ba, A is asking where does he live, but he answers with somewhere in South France. So, somewhere. He really doesn't know what part of France he lives. So, it is a violation of the maxim of quantity. So, the intended implicature is I do not know exactly where she lives. So, that is the intended implicature needed. Okay, let's proceed. So, excuse me. So, next example. So, Miss X produced a series of sounds that corresponded closely with the score of Home Sweet Home. So, the review flouts the maxim of manners, since there would have been a shorter and clearer way of describing the event, namely Miss X sang Home Sweet Home. So, it violates the maxim of manner. Why? Because one of the rule in the maxim of manner, it is to avoid obscurity of expression, which means you don't need to be to all overreact, and be orderly and be brief. So, sa example na binigay, it is somehow, oh my god, okay. So, basically, it really is the statement can be shortened, but the statement is somehow overreacts. That's why. So, that's the reason why it fails to follow the maxim of manner. So, let's proceed. Oh, no. Speakers sometimes utter sentences which are, no. Grice describes, so dito pa yan sa Miss X ha. Grice described cases in which one of maxim is flouted by which he meant a deliberate and obvious violation. So let's proceed with the example. War is war, boys will be boys. So speakers sometimes utter sentences which are tautologies. What do you mean by tautologies? It is a repetition or contradiction. It can be seen as flouting the maxim of quantity, since their semantic content is an informative. Metamorphosis, no. So war is war. So obviously, he repeated the word war, and boys will be boys. It is also a tautology because it is repeated, which is really uninformative because you only repeat the word. So next is that you are the cream in my coffee. Second is Queen Victoria was made of iron. So basically it is a part of figure of speech because it goes along in the metamorphosis, irony, and other part of figures of speech. So dyan siya included. So let's proceed. So in Guy's study, there are people who also shows their contradiction to the study. So Von Fintel and Matthewson 2008, both of them questioned whether Guy's cooperative and maxims hold for all languages since we have different cultures and lexical distinctions, and it will lead to specific implicature which arise. Since these are calculated in light of everything in the common ground between the speaker and the hearer. So, ilahang point po it is because that we also have our own cultures, we also have our own beliefs, we also have our own, so that's their point. Because this type of conversation goes along with both the speaker and the hearer. So that's why they question the study. So wait a minute. Okay, so let's proceed. So types of implicature. First type of implicature is the generalized conversational implicatures. So it is a type of inference that does not depend on particular features of the context, but it is instead typically associated with the kind of proposition being expressed. So unsa ang gigamit to like for example in the statement, the water is warm. So warm is the proposition na ginamit. So or it is an expression of the statement. So the water is warm. Warm is a non-maximal degree modifier referred to as scalar implicature, which I will explain in the next slide. So implicature, the water is not hot. So by saying the water is warm, it basically implicates that the water is not hot, obviously. So the man is other examples, that man is either Martha's brother or boyfriend or her boyfriend. So, implicature, the speaker does not know whether the man is Martha's brother or boyfriend. So, in the given example, we need to put in our minds that generalized conversational maxims are motivated by the same set of maxims given in the example, but they typically do not involve in a violation of the maxims. Implicature arises without any vagueness because the hearer assumes that the speaker is obeying the maxims unless there is evidence to the contrary. It would be different. So generalized conversational implicatures are motivated by the same set of maxims discussed above sa example, but they typically do not involve a violation of the maxims. Rather, the implicature arises precisely because the hearer assumes that the speaker is obeying the maxim. So basically, the speaker and the hearer is assumes that the speaker is following the maxim. So he is not aware whether the speaker is following or not. So if the implicated meaning were not true, then there would be a violation. So if for example that the water is warm, so once na what if the speaker tell the person that the water is warm, but basically it is so hot, so it is so that's the time that we consider it as a violation. So in the first example given, the word warm belongs to set of words which identify various points on the scale of temperature: frigid, cold; cool, lukewarm, warm, hot, burning, etc. This choice, the word warm, implicates not hot by the maxim of quantity. So the sentence at the statement about the warm includes a non-maximal degree modifier, that is words, which refers to intermediate points on the scale. So yun na nga. So so if the speaker was aware that the water was hot but only told the hearer that was warm, yun na nga yung sinabi ko, he would not have been as informative as would appropriate in most contexts. So a hearer stepped into the bathtub knowing that the water turned out to be painfully hot and not just warm. The inference does not depend on particular features of the context but is triggered normally by the use of the word warm. So how warm is used, yun talaga ang basis. So yun nga, katulad ng sinabi ko, what if he lies, or what if what he spoke is not true? So then that's the time that we consider it as a violation. So slide 14. Okay. So the indefinite article can trigger generalized conversation implicatures concerning the possessor of the indefinite NP. So noun phrase with different implicatures depending on whether the head noun is alienable or unalienable. So, what do you mean by alienable? So, what does that mean? Obviously, if the noun can be changed or it is transferable, then it is alienable. Like the house. So, like the house example, I walk into a house. Implicature, the house was not my house. So, basically, it is alienable because you can really say that it is not my house. I just walk into a house, but it is not my house. So basically, the noun can be transferred and can be changed. So the second one is that unalienable is like the word finger. I broke a finger yesterday. Kagaya ng example, implicature, the finger was my finger. So obviously it was his finger, so it can be changed or transferred. So that's unalienable. Sorry for my So let's proceed with conventional implicature. It is the second type of implicature. So in contrast, conversational implicatures are context sensitive and motivated by the conversational maxim. Conventional implicatures are part of the conventional meaning of a word construction and are not context sensitive or dependent or pragmatically explainable and must be learned on a word. No. So conventional implicatures are part of the conventional meaning of a word construction and are not context sensitive, dependent, or pragmatically explainable and must be learned on a word by word basis. So Grice illustrated the concept of conventional implicature using the conjunction therefore. This word does not affect the truth values of sentence. The claim of a casual relationship is only conventionally implicated and not entailed. So example, if I say smugly, he is an Englishman. He is therefore brave. So basically this statement is like is a means that the example, the word therefore means a result of being an Englishman that he became so brave, so the speaker is determined to say that word without any buts, and the word therefore does not affect the sentence value because he only he only tells that being an Englishman makes that certain person brave. So it does not affect the value of the sentence. So sunod, next para. Even Bart passed the test. So Bart was among the least likely to pass the test. So even is the word used in this statement. So but it is like telling those people that even si Bart na mahina sa klase passed the test, so which means the test is easy. So that's how you can interpret that way. So conventional implicatures turn out to have very similar properties to certain kinds of prepositions, and there has been extensive debate over the question of whether it is possible or desirable to distinguish conventional implicatures from suppositions. So distinguishing features of conversational implicatures. So conversational implicatures implies that they will have a certain properties which allow us to distinguish them from other kinds of inference. So first features of conversational implicatures, it is divisible. This term means that the inference can be cancelled by adding an additional premise. So, for example, he has been paying a lot of visits to New York lately, but I don't think he has a girlfriend there either. So, the second statement that was given is like a premise, or it is to cancel the inference that is given. So, John killed the wasp, but the wasps did not die. So, it is understandable, di ba? So, yun na nga. Sorry. So, yun na nga. So, in the example, here, sa divisible, what comes after the but is a way of canceling or adding a premise so that it can be explicitly negated or denied without giving rise to anomaly or contradiction. So, yun na, yung example dito. So, the next example is an entailment. So, ito, John killed the wasp, which is different because it is a consequence of John's action. So, next. Suspendable. So, the speaker may explicitly choose not to commit. So, it is one of the features of conversational implicature. So, the speaker may explicitly choose not to commit the truth or falsehood of the inference without giving rise to anomaly or contradiction. So, here is an example. The water must be warm by now, if not boiling. So, the water must be warm by now, if cold. So, the ifs there is the hesitation between to commit the truth or falsehood. So parang he added ifs to so it is not a, so in this example, the speaker choose not to take risks or commit by saying ifs because of the uncertainty that what she will be saying is false or not. So second feature is calculable. It is capable of being worked out on the basis of the literal meaning of the utterance, the cooperative principle and its maxims, the context of the utterance, background knowledge, the assumption, and are available to participants of the exchange, and they are both aware of this. The other feature is indeterminate. So sometimes multiple interpretations are possible for given utterance in a particular context because conversational implicatures are not part of the conventional meaning of the linguistic expression, and because they are triggered by the semantic content of what is said rather than its linguistic form, replacing words with synonyms or sentence with its paraphrase. So indeterminate, which means can really create, you can really assume, or you can really think of some implication of the statement, and there's a lot of what do you call that, interpretations, because conversational implications implicate implicatures is indeterminate, which means multiple interpretations are possible, so non-detachable. So implicatures involving the maxim of manner are exceptions to this generalization, since in those cases it is precisely that the speaker's choice of linguistic form which triggers the implicature. So yan na yung example. So last is reinforceable. So he used this term to mean that the implicature can be overtly stated without creating a sense of anomalous redundancy. So here is an example. Some of the boys went to the soccer match, but not all. So John is a capable fellow, but I wouldn't call him a genius. So that's how reinforceable features mean. So how to tell one kind of inference from another? So first, it is important to ask whether there is in fact a linguistic inference to be tested. First, my example, my bank manager has just been murdered. So basically that statement can be interpreted as my bank manager has just been murdered. It seems reasonable to assume that the bank will soon be hiring a new manager. However, this expectation is based on our knowledge of how the world works. Ibig sabihin, it is how we view because of the idea of how the world works. So, and not the meaning of the sentence itself, which means that there is no linguistic inference involved. If the bank owners decided to leave the position unfilled, or even to close the branch office entirely, it would not render the speaker's statement false or misleading. So the second is one test may give unreliable results in a particular example because so many complex factors contribute to the meaning of an utterance. So presuppositions are especially tricky, partly because they are not a uniform class. Different sorts seems to have to behave differently in certain respects. So let's proceed. So here is an example of how you should you should give a test to a certain statement. So first, let us begin with the example, John killed the wasp. So the inferred the wasp died. So in 22, we would certainly infer that the wasp is dead. We can test to see whether this inference is cancelable, divisible. As in 22a, the result is a contradiction. We can see whether the inference can be. So in the statement A, John killed the wasp, but the wasp did not die. So ibig sabihin, it is cancelable or divisible. Because for the fact that, the result is contradiction. So the wasp did not die. So contradiction ang dalawa ka sentence. So second is that John killed the wasp, but I'm not sure whether the wasp died. So it is suspendable. So the result is quite unnatural. So John killed the wasp, but I'm not sure whether the wasp died. So it's really unnatural to create it as a statement. So see, John killed the wasp, and the wasp died. So reinforceable siya. Unnatural gihapon, unnatural, redundant siya. So the D and E is basically so the final test, the D and E are asking whether the same inference is created by a family of related sentences, which includes negation and questioning of the original statement. So clearly, if someone asks a question in D, did John kill the wasp? That would not give us any reason to believe that the wasp died. Similarly, the negative statement in 22E gave us no reason to believe that the wasp died. John did not kill the wasp and the wasp did not die. So we have seen that all four tests in the example produce negative results, since all of them does not go beyond the maxims of Grice. So we conclude that John killed the wasp until the wasp died. Since all of it are did not pass. So let's proceed with the second example. So I am out of petrol. So there is a garage around the corner. Inferred you can buy petrol there. So here is how you test na sa ano. So there is a garage around the corner, but they aren't selling petrol today. So B, there is a garage around the corner, but I'm not sure whether they sell petrol. So C, there is a garage around the corner and you can buy petrol there. D, is there a garage around the corner? So E, there is no garage around the corner anymore. So what does that mean? So in this example, A and C show that this inference is divisible. Additional information can block the inference. So yun nga, na-block niya yung inference from the first statement. So it is also suspendable and reinforceable. Neither the question in 23 in D, is there a garage around the corner, nor the would give any reason to believe that he could buy petrol around the corner. The phrase anymore could be added in 23E to make the negative statement around a bit more natural. So in order for the statement here in E, we added the word anymore. So kailangan siya i-add para maging natural ang statement. So in this example, the first three tests produce positive result because all of them turns out to be natural and pass the maxims of Grice. So while the last one, the family of sentences test, is negative. This pattern matches the profile. There is a garage around the corner when spoken in the context of a statement. Conversationally implicates you can buy petrol there. And so let's proceed with the second example. So John has stopped chewing betel nut. In fact, John used to chew betel nut. So first test is John has stopped chewing betel nut, and in fact, he has never chewed it. So in first example, it is a reinforceable because it is reinforceable because the statement turns out to be natural. So John has stopped chewing betel nut if he ever really did chew it. So it is also suspendable because of the use if. Kagaya na sinabi ko kanina. So it is suspendable. Okay? The additional word if can turn the statement to natural. Is still natural yung statement. So basta understandable that if the additional if can suspend the inferences. So C, let's proceed. So both question in D has John stopped chewing betel nut. John has not stopped chewing betel nut. So these two, D and E, produce a negative statement. Seem to imply that use. So these two shows is a negative statement because it implies that John used to chew betel nut. This result match the profile of a presupposition as expected. Stop chewing supposes used to chew. So the used to chew dapat ang naadara. So, naman dito mama. Malapit na tayo matapos. So another example stated most of the wala na pala yan. Erase. So last So most of the boys went to soccer match. Inferred. So inferred, not all of the boys went to the soccer match. So first, most of the boys went to the soccer match. In fact, I think all of them went. So B, most of the boys went to the soccer match, if not all of them. So C, most of the boys went to the soccer match, but not all of them. So D, did most of the boys go to the soccer match? So E, most of the boys didn't go to the soccer match. If most of the boys went to the soccer match, dinner will probably be late this morning. So sa A, it is suspendable because most of the boys went to the soccer match. In fact, I think all of them went. So obviously, ang statement is suspendable because the statement turns out to be natural. So bali, it basically means that so basically it means that the speaker is uncertain if all of the boys went. So parang he can suspend the statement by saying, in fact, I think all of them went. So I think all of them went. So B. So it is reinforceable. Why? Because most of the boys went to the soccer match, if not all of them. If not all of them. So natural lang yapon siya. So sunod is the C. However, the family of the sentences, ito family of the sentences mauna siya ang C. Most of the boys went to the soccer match. Did most of the boys go to the soccer match? So, test produced inconsistent result. The question in 26D fails to trigger the inference as expected. But the negative statement in 26E here seems to be to entail, not just to implicate, that not all of the boys went to the soccer match. So what next, metalinguistic negation. It is used to deny the truth of proposition. It is used to contradict something that the addressee has just said, implied or implicitly accepted. So first is John hasn't stopped chewing betel nut. So John hasn't stopped chewing betel nut. He never did chew it. So it is like a contradiction to the inference or to the first statement given. So presupposition canceling negation, like 27B, John hasn't stopped chewing betel nut. He never did chew it. So he never did chew it. Involve a special kind of negation which refers as metalinguistic negation. So this type of he never did chew it is an example of metalinguistic negation. Metalinguistic negation is typically used to contradict something that the addressee has just said. So, yun na nga. Implied or implicitly accepted. The negated clause is generally spoken with the special intonation pattern mentioned above, is typically followed by the correction or rectification. So yun na nga, he never did chew it. Bali, he contradicts the first statement or the inference given. So metalinguistic negation is different from normal logical negation, which is used to deny the truth of a proposition. If the negation used in this example was simply negating the propositional content, the sentence would be contradiction, because in this example, the 1983 wasn't a bad year. It was horrible. Bad, horrible. So, because horrible entails bad, all entails most claims that what is negated in such example is not the propositional content, but the conversational implicature. Asserting bad implicates not horrible. Asserting most implicates not all. Metalinguistic negation is used to reject the statement in the first clause as being inappropriate or inflicitous because they are not strong enough. So refusal or denial, ito ang example. I'm not hungry, but I'm starving. So most of the boys didn't go to the soccer match. All of them went. So it is like a denial or parang refusal siya ba. So in testing to see whether an inference is preserved under negation, one of the family of sentence tests, we must be careful to use normal logical negation rather than metalinguistic negation. So in conclusion, they are an indispensable part of our everyday communication in order for our hearer to correctly interpret the part of the speaker's intended meaning which is not encoded by the words themselves. These implicatures must be derived in systematic way based on the principle which are known in the both speaker and the hearer. So basically, it means that in order for us to understand each other or to really both of the party, the hearer and the speaker, must be both aware of how conversation works, or how in a systematic way or based on the principles that are given. So that is all my report, and thank you.